Good morning, colleagues. We are going to commence with our program for today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Commander Pro. I will be facilitating parts of today's program, and I'd like to welcome all of you and our speakers as a starting point. But we are hosting today's engagement not by ourselves. Actually, we're like a secondary partner at the multi-student program today, and we are hosting this engagement with our sister organization. That's how it's meant to be in terms of the gender equity discussion. It could be our brotherly organization, CANRAD, which is an organization that's based out of National Mandela University in Quebec. And in fact, I'm sure we put it quarterly because you must recognize the name change, you must also adjust accordingly. So we're going to be convening around sort of making an assessment of the Electoral Amendment Act as it stands. What are the implications for us as citizens? What are the implications for political parties? And particularly looking at the two sort of suggestions for how to move forward at the moment that come out quite significant. The one being the multi-party charter for South Africa, which is formed by a number of opposition political parties, and then of course a discussion around the impact of independent candidates in the sort of broader political sphere. But before we even get to that sort of multi-party charter as well as the independent candidates discussion, as someone who's working in the space of civic education and society, it's been a difficult year, I can say, since the discussions around the Electoral Amendment Act have been in place. Because ultimately, people want to know practically what does it mean for me when I go into the booth, when I go into the ballot. And what am I going to be seeing? What pictures am I expecting? Two different columns? What's happening as it relates to the introduction specifically of independent candidates? But of course, we have with us not a sister partner, but even we can call them our mother body since we're a non-political party, we're non-politically aligned. And we can call the IEC our mother body to some extent, because they are the ones who are leading us in the space of convening around elections, ensuring electoral integrity, but also ensuring that there's sufficient civic and voter education that happens in the different spaces that we occupy. So we do welcome all of the speakers, but we also welcome your voice in this space. We recognize that you occupy a very strategic role in your community and constituency, and we want to engage with you. That also, in terms of what are the concerns, red flags that you are seeing. And when I say red flags, I'm not talking about any specific political party, but I'm saying what are the things that you're concerned about? Yeah, one over the head. Thank you for laughing. I appreciate you. What are the specific things that you're seeing in the space that we need to be aware of as we go into sort of more significant preparations for the election next year? I know that the IEC, for instance, in as much as they want to prepare for elections, there are still stumbling blocks. And I've been having to some of my IEC colleagues to say, so what is the impact of that on the potential for preparation and stuff like that? And so it's important that we unpack all of these things. And for us who are occupying the role of being sort of an intermediary between government and government work as it relates to elections and the communities and constituencies that we serve. So as time goes on, as one says, if we can use the door at the back for entry and sort of exit and entry into the space, you're more than welcome to continue to use the ablution, etc. I'll go in online, of course, by our colleagues in Quebec. You're welcome to share the link with our colleagues as well. That it's on the DDP face-to-face, even though it's a kind of event. But because of the love that we have between two organizations. But before I go too in depth in terms of the relationship with two organizations here, now the problem who need no introduction, hopefully, because I think this is me, where he's 7 degrees and all of the publications and yeah, I'm even as you drove here, you were hoping to hear from the course, but it was really preparing for this event. So he wasn't able to be on the airwaves today, but welcome, Prof. And on behalf of the VP staff, the executive director of the board, we are very appreciative of the extension of partnership from this event. And so we hope that your welcoming words also carry the spirit of that relationship. Oh, I'll try. But yeah, welcome.
The issue with SPA is that if you speak after you spoken, you end up doubting everything you're going to say. But one thing on which we agree is the importance of colors on the eve of the election. I remember at one point when we were having elections, I happened to be at the provincial results collection center with Shawan and others. And there was a time when the IEC was forced to change to pink. Just imagine all the colors that is set for pink, simply because the colors they were using were associated with certain political parties. So then they changed from blue, and the blue was DA. They can't go to red because it's EFL. Then if you change to green or blue, to like ANC or IFP because those colors are. So they ended up, I don't know, let's just say they're okay with it. Then I'm looking forward to the color they'll be using in next year's election. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do what I normally do, which is to offend politicians. I'll be a good guy today, I promise. I'm not going to offend anyone. Program director, I used to call him a henchman until he came to Kareha, and then he said, no, when I'm in Kareha, when I'm outside of KZN, please don't call me a henchman, because people are going to think I'm in bad. So I only use that concept when we are here. When we go out of the province, then it's just the right hand man of the So, program director, our DPP colleagues led by Dr. Karaoke there, my friend, we've coined a lot of things together. Thank you very much for that. And then, of course, my CANRAD colleagues, they are seated there. Can you please just wait? Let us see, we call it this case. That is Auntie Rodney. So they are the team, members of the team that keeps me going. Because I'm all over the show, and they're the people who call me to order whenever I need to. And then, of course, our colleagues from the IEC, as Power saying, these are not just people who are seen as an outside stakeholder, but they are part of the collective, and they're the ones who give us direction on most of the issues meant to take this country forward. Even when things go wrong, they are the ones who have to lead us, and then, of course, caution us whenever we go astray. Thank you very much for that. And they do also relentlessly support such gatherings, and we do appreciate it. We are mindful of the fact that there are a number of things that you do in between elections, when there are by-elections, and then of course on the eve of an election, they do still involved. But they still find time to be with us. We do appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause. And then of course I would like to extend my word of welcome also to leaders of different political parties and members who are here present. And then of course all other forms of leaders, the charity organizations and the like. And then, of course, to all of your stakeholders and everyone who made this day a success by just coming here. Because we wouldn't be having an event without people coming here, so we do appreciate it. I'm delighted by the partnership we have with DDP, and of course, it is maturing at a very high speed. Very few people will believe that we started our relationship just recently, but then the kinds of things that we've been able to do are just unbelievable, including this event, of course. Not so long ago, I left UWC, that is University of Western Cape, and joined the University, Nelson Mandela University, specifically the Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy, commonly known as CANRAD, at Nelson Mandela University. I immediately saw the need to touch base with Dr. Karaoke and SPA to discuss the possibility of signing an MOU with our sister institutions. And this was the premise in the understanding that we read from the same script, and then it was easy for us then to forge that relationship. Because we are like-minded, the process was very smooth and devoid of any glitches. As a matter of fact, we didn't even have to solicit legal advice when we were preparing our MOU, because everything just went smooth. Thank you very much, Dr. Karaoke and the team. And round of applause. I must be honest, I did not anticipate that we'll be having a discussion of this nature in such a short space of time. Of course, I think that we have to agree that the phrase which says birds of the same feather flock together has come to fruition because we were like-minded and then we were able to move things at the speed with that. And we coined the theme for today's discussion as follows: reflections on the electoral act in the context of present dynamics, exploring possibilities. This theme is predicated on the understanding that we have general elections coming next year, which promise to be the most exciting since the major election we had in 1994, which was characterized by euphoria and ecstasy. I think we find ourselves in the same situation we found ourselves in 1984 when we our first democratic election. This time around, I don't know what's going to happen on the time we check. And the last time I checked, we had 350 political parties, and many more have joined. Dr. Tawana will know better how many they are right now. I've stopped counting. I'll only count once the date has been announced. And I know that no new political party will be added. Only then will I check how the numbers look like, and then start making noise as to what my predictions are with the elections next year. But I'm conflicted. I was thinking to my IC colleagues that I want to go in as an independent candidate. And then it scared me because I may have to get more votes than the political parties. But that's the issue we are going to discuss on. Secondly, we have experienced instabilities in different municipalities across the country due to unsustainable coalition governments that are characterized by trust deficit among political parties and individuals, dishonesty, and failure to see the bigger picture and to respect the electorate. You will agree with me that most of these coalition discussions happen in boardrooms, and then you and I as electorate are not party to that, and that's a problem. That's where the problem starts, because we have outsourced decision making to our politicians, and they fail us and they give so dismal. And that is why the coalition is not sustainable. But I'm not political, I'm just stating facts. Thirdly, we've witnessed court cases regarding the inclusion or the exclusion of independent candidates, and of course the politics surrounding that in terms of modalities. As things stand at the moment, we're not too sure as to what is going to happen, depending on how the court cases go. Because when we think we have reached the last line, then somebody decides to go to court, and then of course that person is to be given a hearing. As to how far that is going to go, I'm not too sure. Against the drop, CANRAD deemed it necessary to provide a platform for various stakeholders to reflect on the Electoral Act in the context outlined above. Importantly, we invited people who are more capable to talk to the topic, who will help us ruminate about the way forward, and then, of course, assist us in navigating this very important topic. And we look forward to the deliberations and the resultant proposals that are going to consider as a way forward. With those few words, we are all welcome, and please enjoy the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Just to put on the spot, we have just the leadership from TVET colleges also walk into the room. So we appreciate that young people will also be privy to the discussion that we're going to be having today. We appreciate also the sentiments that you've shared for Dr. Prof. Gomez, as far as the partnership that we both enjoy as an organization. In terms of the different constituencies that are covering this room, I think the greater Ethekwini region and somewhat in terms of the inland and some of the South Coast can be included as part of this space. We also have with us a very long-term partner with us in the room from the built environment, best represented by Kulelani. And so we are very appreciative of their participation in this space as well. So Uso and Uzi will be rescued at some point, but they are hard at work trying to make sure that that's it, unfortunately, Ethekwini is at risk of becoming somewhat like Uso and Uzi at the moment, but of course we'll see how things go in 2026 if we choose to make the same options or choose to make the same choices rather in the way we cast our ballots. Or maybe we're just going to do things differently inside the political party so that we have a different result if we choose to do what we say political party. So me and guys, everything is up to you, and ultimately that's what the IEC will also share with you. But of course, some of the things that I really enjoy about the relationship that we have with the IEC is that when we ask them for a speaker, about to Mumbai, to the best of their ability to bring us with the most capable and high-level person they could get in the room. You might see Godfrey and Dr. Sawala in the room, but they are also had to be deferred to this specific event, even though there's another official IEC engagement that's happening right down the corridor. And so we appreciate that even when things are difficult inside the office, they still recognize and are willing to partner and work with us in convening the spaces that we're in. So we have with us Mr. Masefo, who is Deputy CEO of the IEC. The CEO was unavailable. Personally. But yes, we are just convened, thanks to Prof. Momezulu, sustained our own panel, and I felt like an equal. So we appreciate your availability, Mr. Shiburi, and we hope that as you convene us in Saturday, that we will be as attentive, but also just wait. I know people came here also anticipating to ask questions, because similar to me, they're still sort of figuring out how really to explain some of the amendments to their constituency. Specifically also, because of the 2021 local government election, to some extent, we were in limbo as to whether the election itself would have happened at the date in which it was meant to be happening, given the number of court cases that were happening at the time. And the trend seems to be the same this year and going into next year. What implications will the court cases have on our? I know the Constitution says one thing. I know that the IEC is firm on its willingness to comply with the law as stated. But what are the circumstances under which you might need to postpone? I don't know. That's worst case scenario, and of course, the planning of the IEC is never at that level. They can't plan to not have an election. They always plan to have it, and so. Mr. Shiburi, welcome. I hope that I haven't set you up too badly. That there's no answer in terms of the way that's where some discussions today. And we'll allow him to go into depth. And of course, after he's spoken, please note down any thoughts, questions that you might have. What we'll do is we'll convene first around the table so that we get a consensus in terms of what are the main questions we'd like to pose to Mr. Shiburi after the presentation is done. So I hope that you've been familiarized with the clicker. Okay. Oh, let me. No worries. Prof was saying that he knows me as the henchman of DDP, and part of that reason is that I'm the IT, I'm the facilitator, I'm everything. So now technology. As I appreciate that we are now. Welcome. Sorry.
Good morning, President Director, colleagues from CANRAD, and we appreciate this type of safe safety so that we can have fair-based discourse, which is not driven only by narrow interests, sometimes driven by raw emotion and primordial identity. That's as a preface. How long do I have a program?
Yeah, we have about 20 to 30 minutes. Go back.
20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll try to. not to go. Just a few quick answers. The Democratic Breakthrough in 1994 introduced a party-based electoral system which was proportional in its nature. In other words, the result ought to represent the strength of the political contestant. While the system may be criticized, it is not perfect. No electoral system is. One thing that cannot be said is that it was not well conceived. It was well conceived to deal with the realities of a divided country, a country emerging from conflict. So while we criticize the PR system, bear in mind what it is that it sought to do in the build-up to 1994. In order to understand the election act, it is worth spending a few minutes just to deal with what brought us here. You'll recall that in 2020, a number of applicants in what came to be known as the New Nation Movement approached the Constitutional Court. In front of the court, they argued the following: that one, the Electoral Act, to the extent that it straitjackets adult citizens to exercise their Section 19 political rights through the platform of political parties, is unconstitutional. And they raised a few constitutional bases to come to that conclusion. The first one was that the right to associate is constitutionally guaranteed both in the positive, i.e. the right to form a party, to form a trade union, but it also enjoys protection in the negative, i.e. the right to opt out, the right not to be forced to associate. So the court was with the applicant. It said the Electoral Act forces adult citizens to associate in order to exercise their constitutional right, and to that extent, it is unconstitutional. And if you force people to associate, you also offending their right to dignity. So the court correctly remitted the letter to Parliament and said Parliament must amend the law within 24 months. A thing to be said. The court never said an electoral system without constituencies is unconstitutional. The court also, telling did not change the requirement in Section 46 of the Constitution that states that an election must result in general in proportional representation. The lawgivers accepted that you cannot find mathematically perfect proportion as an outcome of the election. Therefore, they use the phrase in general in proportional representation. So the scheme we have, while it accommodates independence, it must be guaranteed that the outcome in general is proportional as it relates to inter-party representation. We know now that Parliament has passed the Act early this year and the President brought it into force in June. No, sorry. There's at least two constitutional court challenges that were heard by the Crown Court. It was the 29th and 30th of August, and I'll reference them when I go into the view of the Commission as it relates to the court application is that the rights, in other words, we accept that it do not right. While we know what principles must inform an electoral system, it is not for an election management body to determine an electoral system. That is the terrain of Parliament, is a representative of the people. So we filed papers to abide. However, we also filed explanatory affidavits because the Constitutional Court has always maintained that on issues related to elections, it is not desirable that we must come to a decision without first hearing the view of the election. On our part, we persist with preparations for the elections. Not because we are arrogant or true, but we are informed by a number of principles, key among which being that one, we do not call an election, we do not determine the date of the election. To that end, we must stand ready to deliver it whenever it's called to lawfully within 90 days. Secondly, we know from 2021 and the program director that a general election may never be declared beyond the 90-day period following the election. In other words, the Constitution tells us that the term of the legislative assembly is 5 years, and from the expiry of the 5 years, the election must be held. So while the president has the prerogative to choose the date of an election, that window period is predetermined in the Constitution. You can't choose a day outside of that. We persist with our preparation, also informed by the fact that in the electoral system that excludes independence is not constitutionally permissible. So we play on the basis of the law as it's said, and if the court makes different determinations that amends the law, we will have to adjust in the time period that we have. So what are the key features in the first thing to be said is that the number of seats in the National Assembly remain constitutionally circumscribed at 400. Since 1994, the seats in the National Assembly, 400 seats in the National Assembly, have always been split as follows. 200 seats are split across regions, the 9 regions, so region, province. And that is based on the number of voters in each region or province. So the first 200 is split in the regions. Why did that choice, why was that choice made in 1994? It was made to avoid a situation where the National Assembly is dominated by voices from a few regions. For example, economically strong regions, counting, predictably dominated. People from those regions dominated seats in the National Assembly if a mechanism to spread the seat was not given. So it is in the interest of people when we have the voter registration on 18th and 19th to up your registration figures because you have a greater share of the 200 seats in the account. So that's the first 200 seats. And these 200 seats will be contested by political parties as well as independent candidates. So independents will contest for the seat in the National Assembly via one of the regions. The other 200 seats are reserved in order to comply with the Section 26 of the Constitution that the outcome of the election is or results in general in proportional equity. I've highlighted this in because it is a subject of the one of the court applications. The independent candidate assessment have approached court and have invited the Constitutional Court to write in a remedy that says the number of seats in the National Assembly must be split 350 in the regions and 50 for parties in order to restore proportionality. Our view is that the 350 split as well as the 200 and 200 split both meet the constitutional injunction of in general proportionality. Where we are at odds with the applicants in this particular case, the 350 split introduces a difficulty which has no resolution in the law. In that, in 200, we never have instance of an overhead occurs where a party has more regional seats than it is entitled in proportion. And the only way to change that is either to take the seat from another party or to increase the number of seats in the state. We know the 400 seats is taken place by the Constitution. The Election Act can provide a mechanism that changes that. because it will be stronger. So that's the first part application by the independent company. Okay, let me go back and say that one. So the National Assembly election, how different is it from the provincial elections? It is a two-tier system. Number of said, the first 200 are split in the region, like the first tier, and the second tier, those working with third parties, in terms of normally it's national to national and regional to national. So that is the two-tier system. The elections of the legislature are still a single tier, multi-member proportional system. We know that this province has the maximum number of seats a legislature may have constitutionally at 80. So even if the population increases, the 80 seats will increase unless there's a constitutional amendment. And the commission will, for the first time, create a next year's election, determine the number of seats for each of the districts. The number was revised last time when case voting was around 80 seats, the maximum number of seats. You can't allocate less than 30 seats because that is in base allocation. A province like Northern Cape always have 30 member legislature, even though the population doesn't justify those number of seats. And the number of seats in the Western Cape legislature are determined in terms of their constitutional and in terms of their provincial constitution. And the commission will not determine the number of seats. We have begun consultation with legislatures in order to receive their views, and we will receive imminently census data from state. We will use that as a scientific basis to determine the number of seats, because the number of seats in the legislatures are determined on the basis of data of total population in the province. But before the commission, there will be a period of qualification. This slide gives you the number of seats in each of the legislature, and on the extreme right, it gives you the number of regional seats. So this seats speak to the 200 seats that I said are split across the region. The provinces that have the most population have more number of seats. Counting 48, 41. So it is in the interest of provinces to drive up voter population in order to benefit from the of seats. So in practical terms, what does it mean for candidates, whether party or independent? For independent candidates who want to run for a seat in the National Assembly or in a provincial election, over and above meeting the base requirements of submitting the candidature before the total of candidates, paying a deposit that will be determined by the commission. A few months back, the commission had published a number of regulations, including what it proposes to be paid by parties and independent candidates. So an independent may stand for election in the National Assembly from any region. They can also stand for a seat in the National Assembly from multiple regions. Why? Because the elections are for the National Assembly, and the entirety of the country is a constituency. However, if an independent wants to stand in the legislature, they can only stand in the legislature in which you are registered. An independent candidate, even if they stand in multiple regions, they can't aggregate or gather the votes in the others to get a seat. They must win with a quota in each of the regions in order to get a seat. And because an independent is an individual, they will only be elected in all seats. If they get votes that entitle them to more than one seat, they are assigned them one seat, and other votes will go towards implementation. Those are what are politically referred to as votes. So for an independent candidate, over and above the requirement that apply to parties, they must also demonstrate that their candidature is not frivolous by submitting signatures of voters who support their candidate. And the number of signatures has been determined at 15% of a quota for a seat in the previous election. And I'll illustrate this in a few seconds. I've highlighted the 15% in red because it is the second method before the court. One South African movement filed an application challenging 15% because the say constitutes the court is here. Just in the interest of time, the 15% applies to both independent candidates and parties that do not have a seat in either a legislature or in the National Assembly. For example, Action SA was minded for the national representative. Over and above submitting this saying they must also submit signatures to the state, but their candidature is not. The 15%, for each legislature, you must meet 15% of signatures of voters in that province. However, for the National Assembly election, the 15% may be made up by voters from different regions. So the independent party that intends to contest all 9 regions, they have to submit 15% in each region. The answer is no. They must meet the highest of the two. For example, how they will always constitute the highest. So if they meet the quota in Gauteng for the election in the National Assembly, we can contest all other regions. However, they must meet the quota in respect of each province in intent to contest. I reference that the Commission published regulations in there proposed that an independent must pay a deposit of 15,000 for a seat for contesting a seat in the legislature and 20,000 for a seat in the National Assembly. The party must pay 300,000 to contest in the National Assembly and 45,000 for each of the provincial assemblies. In all, the party that contest every seat in the country will have to deposit 7,500. I want to pick this, the almost are the same parties. I've already spoken to unrepresented parties. This illustrates the point, 15%. For KZN, to get a seat in the National Assembly in 2019 from the region of KZN, a party ought to have received 86,967 votes because KZN is one state that itself to be in financing. So 15% of 86,000 is, let's see, was not, yeah, 15% of 86,000 equal to 13,055.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So if you understand that the country independent candidates for the seat in the National Assembly from the region of Natal or as an unrepresented party, you must have made 13,055 signatures. For the seat in the provincial legislature. Remember, we said KZN has a maximum number of seats. So even if you make a determination, number of seats in the legislature in KZN will not change. KZN in 2019 to get a seat in the legislature, a party needed to receive 44,424,000 votes. So 15% of 44,000 is 6,624. So to contest for a seat in the legislature, an unrepresented party or an independent needs to pay a deposit, submit their list, but also submit signature equivalent to 6,624. What is the implication of the inclusion of independence on the party? Hitherto, we've voted in election for the National Assembly using a single ballot. And that ballot, because the contest was only for parties, that ballot was almost counted twice. First in the region, second time in the national to determine overall opportunity for the nation. That system has changed because the persistent will introduce an unfairness because it gives the voters a binary choice of an either you can either vote for the party or not for the party. So the Act introduces second in the national assembly. So the national ballot will be the same across all the provinces because only political parties are here. The second tier will be the regional ballot, which will be region specific for the number of parties, configuration of parties, and station independence will not be the same. So that is the second one. So that if a person wants to vote for an independent, they can choose independent, and they can also vote for a party, or they can choose an independent and spoil the national party. There has been sentiment expressed in the public discourse that a vote for an independent is a repudiation or a rejection of political party system. We beg to differ, that is not supported by evidence, because if you superimpose the results of the 2021 election and look at the wards in which there were independent candidates, in those wards, there were more votes cast for parties than were cast for independent candidates. So, on that basis, it cannot be that a vote for an independent equals a retribution on party system. So, for the national legislature, the ballot still remains the one ballot, that ballot from this is just an illustration of the ballot. And the program director indicated that will people vote on a single column or double column? I do not know. I've tried throwing my bones. Seems to be
an answer.
But this could be said. And there's around 600 parties on the social party that come. When I left the office, there were 2 sitting on my desk. I would approve that. Registration of parties is continuous. So there will be more parties we could register. But this needs to be said. At what point does proliferation of parties stop the edge to equality of voice in the legislative assembly? In 1994, I think we had 70 parties from the UK and about 12 more representatives. With each election, the number of parties increased, the number of contesting parties increased. However, the voice in the legislature has plateaued at about 13 parties. In 2019, 78 parties contested. 48 on the national ballot, the others on the various provincial legislature. So we had 48 parties on the ballot, and only 30 got seats. So it can't be that the proliferation of parties results in more influential voice in the national state. put it the other way around. There were over 50,000 candidates that were vying for 830 seats. And in that circumstances, always the losers will outweigh those who got seats. And run out the domination of those things. And that's when you start hearing things like the elections were rigged, free, and fair, and these type of things. In 2021, even this province, we received just under 100,000 candidates for a total of 10,400 seats in municipalities. So 100,000 people were contesting for 10,400 seats. Those who met the requirements of 6,000 and only 10,400 seats. That should be all of us. Back to the ballot. In 2021, the longest ballot we printed was the PR ballot in the city of Togo. On the day of special voting, printing that ballot. We had only printed enough to get the elections special vote and we finalized the printing of those ballots on the final voting. This talks to the difficulty and the capacity in the country at that stage within that initial window and with the security features. The ballot paper has at least several security features that are not evident to the market. And so you can't call it. Not everyone who hasn't changed the ballot. So for this election, the commissioners already approved the ballot. So for an election with more than 48 contestants, we are unavoidably going to put the ballot in two columns. And we know from research that voters prefer parties to be set one after each other, even if the ballot. But to print within a window period, to do more than 48 parties, it's not practical. Can't be beyond 610 minutes of ballot in the number of these. So we need to print on the side by side. And that will accommodate parties up to about 96. So if we have more than 96 parties contesting, then we are in the God be with us territory. Those who have been in the DRC in 2006 when South Africa had the DRC will have seen the ballot was the A4 precise booklets. Yeah. So you paid number of pages. It is not far-fetched, but we may end up with a booklet in such an election. Not looking forward to it, but it is a reality. And we know that with that, there will be an increase in the margin of miscast ballot by miscast ballot, where a person erroneously votes for a party they intend to vote for, or they may end up with more marks than they have. And we've introduced, it's not a new thing, but always in the law that if a person makes, they don't even have to appear that they didn't. Go into a ballot booth, you mark your ballot, but before you deposit it into the ballot box, you have an attack of conscience. You can ask for a new ballot. So you surrender the ballot, you mark, you state it, yeah, put it aside and do a new ballot. So even with that, the number of the logistics in which is going to be impacted, but it will be the ballot. We will try our best to make them manageable and useful for immigrants. I'm about to conclude the program. The last thing relates to the method of allocating seats has not changed in terms of the new act. It is what we've always said since 1990. However, that's been adapted to maximize the participation of independent candidates. So how do votes translate into representation? We have independents can contest in a region for a seat in the National Assembly. I do not know the quota that will get the seat from the state, because that will only be known by Godfrey after his terminated the vote. So on those of voting, we turn all the voting stations into counting stations to not transport the uncounted by 2% count. The total number of votes per region divided by the number of seats in that region, 81 to produce that gives you the vote. You only know that one. And each contestant, be they party or an independent, must meet the same quota to get a seat. So it is not accurate that independents must get more votes to get a seat than parties. All contestants must meet the same quota to get a seat. And let's not confuse a quota with an electoral threshold. Electoral threshold means a contestant must meet a certain percentage of voter support before they are considered for a seat. While in Scandinavian and certain European countries like that, we do not have that. We do not have it. So you find that it's possible for a party with less than 2% who can get a seat or even get 2 seats in the National Assembly. So if we count the real seats in KZN, we divide the votes, one vote, divide them by 80, the answer there is 2. So every candidate, whether party or independent, must make a quota to get a seat. Only difference is that because a party is an association, it can submit a list. So you divide, you allocate seats to the list of the party. So if a quota is 44,000 votes and a party, let's say 100,000, the party will get 2 seats, 44 is 8,000, and the remaining votes will be ranked to compete with the other highest. And if it qualifies there, it can even get a third seat as the highest. The independent candidates, if they get 100,000 votes when the quota is 44,000, they get allocated 6 to 44,000, and the balance of the votes do not go to retain. Okay. It is a choice of standing as an independent, so you cannot add it. The vacancies. If an independent loses membership of the legislative assembly in midterm, there will not be a vacancy, because to call a vacancy must call a vacancy throughout the program. So the law provides that there will be a method of recalculation. The recalculation will remove the votes cast in favor of the independent who is causing the vacancy, and you recalculate the quota. Whoever meets the quota, whether they are a party there or an independent candidate, get elected to that seat. In the parliamentary process, there was a strong motivation that the seats must be reserved. If it's left by the independent, it must be reserved so that it must be another independent. On face value, it sounds sensible. However, it offends the true democratic principles of one, equality of the vote and the will of the voters, because you may end up giving a seat to an independent group of only 2,000 votes and overlapping parties that have 40,000 only because you want to reserve that seat for another independent. The method of recalculating is another area in court, with the instance of one side. It's not the IC, the organizers.
There you go.
Yeah. For those people who are looking for broader electoral, the Act guarantees the process. Says the minister must within 30 days of receiving, before I go, within 4 months of the passing of the act, the minister must establish a electoral reform consultation panel that is made up of experts and independent people like the court, who engage in research, and after the 2024 election must start a process of consultation, and within 12 months of the election next year, they must submit a report with options to the minister, and the minister must within 30 days submit that report to Parliament. So this is a process for people who are looking for much greater electoral reform beyond what the Act provides. Other changes, since we are all Democrats, we had a well-meaning provision in the law. This was called Section 24, which allows a person to walk into any voting station and ask to vote as if they were registered in that station. That was a narrow and well-meaning provision in the law to deal with people who find themselves unavailable outside their voting stations on voting. Let's say emergency workers or a truck driver who's registered in Limpopo, they find themselves in routes to which has been on voting. Without Section 24A, they will not be able to vote because they are outside of the state. However, over time, this well-meaning provision has become abused to look for people, to look for voting stations with and in that context, a narrative has begun to emerge that it is possible for certain voters to vote more times than themselves. And in 2021, Parliament amended the law, and Section 24A is no longer available by application of the voting station. It is only available by pre-notification on the date in the country and indicating statement that we've also simplified voting by participants across. However, what does not change is that most overseas are still confined to embassies and participants overseas. This is just the information, and I want to contribute. These are the key statistics on the podcast. Majority female, which the trend is well entrenched, and this is true for registered voters. This is true for voters, and the majority of voters are female. And they are saying the majority of well-behaved voters are also female. Because except for 2021, by 11 o'clock in the morning, an election is lost for one score. The majority of voters are female. And we struggle an hour 30 minutes before we close, where there's a surge of people at voting stations, invariably men, not well behaved. What should annoy us, however, are the underrepresentation of young people. Consistently, with the rest of the continent, we are increasingly young people. However, the voters were seniors and overrepresentation over our states. We should not ascribe terms like apathy to young people, because we know once registered, young voters are 10 times more likely to vote than in each cohort. In 2021, of all people who registered for the first time, 71% of them stayed on the TV. All the other 18 to 51, 71% of those who registered voted in the elections. This just gives you a spread of voter registration patterns by age. And you see the lighter shade of gray majority young persons in the province of Queensland. They are most likely to be found in the northeastern part of the province. Whereas the western part of the country, people. This is the same slide, but this set up the registration by gender up to voting distance level. And again, the northeastern part of the country or the province is predominantly female. This is the study I was talking about, turnout by 8 bands. You will see the category 18 to 29, 18 to 19 have voted more than in each category. And this is the voter turnout by gender. And this does for those who partner with this, those who are in control of municipalities or who are distributing in government. These are the statistics in voting station facilities where we have electricity, where there are no roads, where there's not enough people, where no. This slide is very important because it communicates the message, whether move or against. If you accept that the vote is a great person, people who vote under this condition, proper access, without sanitary safety, or what is it? For all that, I wish that the message that we need to that we matter not because of the city, vote we matter in spite of the opportunity. Program Director, thank you very much for my input. Only matter is about colors. In 2019, we went with a party pack about party income. Before that, in that election, the Freedom Fund was did very well. Started being around the picture of the electoral officer and myself in khaki market. And there was a text that this was the kind of freedom conference. And it took me a while before I could draw the distinction between people. So I connected from class and the khaki and the khaki color. Thank you very much. Another round of applause, please. We have a thing after the next time.
For your presentation. I think this one needs a bit of explanation. So it's kind of what aren't represented, specifically the 18 to 19-year-old band. So when you see 71% turnout, you're like, oh, that's amazing. But it's 71% of a very small minority of young people that are actually registered. So it's a representation of the registered population of 18 to 19-year-olds. And only 5 of them registered to vote. If 3 of them turn up, that's already a significant amount, even though in the broader picture it's quite small. So just for clarity, we have to go in number and think that we don't have any work to do as a society to try and mobilize, especially that band of people. Of course, I'm going to give you an opportunity to turn inwards at your table. What are some of the things that were significant that you heard for the first time or were surprised by in the communication? I know that might have been the first one. I'm not really good enough. What are some of the lingering questions that you still have that you might want to discuss? And perhaps what is your main takeaway from the presentation from the deputy CEO of the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa? Well, we can pay absolutely ICJ, but it's the Independent Electoral Commission of South Africa. Otherwise, you are thinking it. Of course, I'd like for you to take 10 minutes to have a discussion, and then I'll take a hand per table afterwards, and then we'll ask Mr. Shiburu to also respond to some of those questions. Thank you very much. So 10 minutes discussion at your table, and then we'll go back. So our colleagues joining us online, you are welcome to post on the page itself on YouTube. If you are unable to post on YouTube for whatever reason, please do share any comments or questions on either the CANRAD Twitter page or the DDP Twitter page, and we'll try and get our comms people to follow up on that. Thanks for that, and then we'll ask the question directly to Mr. Shiburu.
Yes. Yeah. I think so. Let me check my calendar quickly. Yeah. Okay, you can go to a slide now, just click the standard slide. Sure, it's for me Monday. And then, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, colleagues, thank you very much. It's very unusual when I say thank you very much and people actually keep quiet, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I would like volunteers for questions, comments. Please try and be as concise as possible so that we enable everyone in the room an opportunity. To speak, please raise your hand. I'll take around the 3 hands for now. 1, 2. Okay. 3. So sorry, hello, that I can't believe it. Now, our colleague, some concepts on them, might maybe move back. Yeah, all right, so good. Give me a second. Let's try and move on. Yeah, right. There we go. All right, so I do that. I put something there. Yeah, it is all right. Oh. All right. No, that's all right. I could
understand that there is South Africa, there is this huge gap between the rich and poor, and beside our background. So my question here comes into this challenge that was mentioned by the previous speaker, where he spoke about the difficulties of printing out another people. So my question is IEC, does IEC not have maybe another method that they are working on to make it implementable, since we are talking what are happening online digitally for people that who can, however, let's say they cannot remove the system of having them print it out, but I feel that it would be much more ease if we have an option of doing this online. So that is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think a lot of the gatherings when we convene around elections are always asking about the online space and how can you utilize it. There are some challenges. Luckily, I was in the space where we were speaking with the professor and along with other colleagues in the space, speaking about the impact of AI technology going forward. So we saw we had the foresight to speak about that, particularly the program like that. Perhaps we'll also share the link of the broadcast so that other colleagues can catch up on that later. Since last time, I'm not the kid, then that's a time we have. I'm home, guys. Just Vietnam.
A couple of questions from our table. The one was special votes. Special votes in my area was a no. Nobody came, although we did apply online with the IEC a whole month before. That didn't happen. And then we talk about section 24A, that for the first time. Very good one.
Yeah.
Can be abused and how does it work? Does it still stay in place? Example, I live in Ward 16 and I've got an emergency in Ward 20. How do I notify the IEC that I need to vote in Ward 20? All right. Okay, that was one. The other one was voter education is very needed. I know you're going to say to me that the parties should see to it, but it's needed to make life easier for everybody. There was another question. If I'm standing for election as a candidate, but I'm useless in my ward, but the people like the party. The question is, how do I vote?
So if you're standing as a candidate, or you're voting for someone as a candidate, but that candidate is useless,
Correct.
yeah, but they like the party.
They like the party.
Yeah.
And the party was the wrong person.
Yeah. So the party prefers the wrong person. Okay.
Okay, and the way around now, what do you do back to section 24A? If I'm going to move from party to party, how do I know that I am going to cast a vote? Who do I approach? And if the answers go to your area, there's already 1,000 people in front of me, and I'm rushing to fill them in the next hour, how do I get that done?
Okay.
Thank you.
Just some clarity on the question about the special elections. So special elections happen in two categories. One, you sort of a special election, a special voting day. People go to a specific voting station, and then the other one is home visits. So you're saying the home visits were the ones where no one arrived, or okay? So the specific constituency registered for special votes / home visits, but the home visits didn't happen accordingly. Okay. The last time, yes. Old age. Okay, so the question around voting stations, we know that you've published a new list or expanded on the list of voting stations at the moment. And we're apparently going to have more places to vote in the next year's election. How do people get notified about where they ought to be voting? And does that sort of the SMS number still apply in this instance? People need to also carry some responsibility of checking where they are registered to vote at. But someone for your table. Okay. Can you give yourselves a round of applause? Firstly, I have not seen many people and do fight for so long.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Miracha. I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Something about that. Okay, in our table, we just have some comments and the meetings that we just had today. First of all, we were surprised by the number of increasing political parties.
Yeah.
Also, for independent candidates, for the registration, you see that number is too high, that's 13,000 plus. Yeah, to be there. Also, as that table said, ourselves, so that the voter needs to be just go to vote, or maybe they can say you are not voting. The last we were concerned about the independent candidates. If maybe they die or they resign, they are post for the way. One. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very quick question, because
Parties have in a closed list proportional representation system. There's always someone who has the capacity to take up the seat in the instance that someone passes away or experiences some challenges. What happens with an independent candidate that's deployed either does that then also mean that the votes that were given to that kunzima. You want more representation, you want more diverse type of representation, but at the same time, it's sort of a catch-22. I think I saw another hand. Yes, Pops. One. Any other hands? In the room? 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll pause there from the 4 hands, and then we'll ask who will answer thereafter. We'll take 4 more hands.
Good day, everybody. My name is CANRAD Thomas, very known as Pops Thomas. So my question is, when will the regulations be finalized? And a scenario, if it's not accepted, the independent candidate, do we revert back to 1994 rules? If a political party wants to contest the election, so that quota of the supporters falls away. So that's something new that is in here based on what we think is going to happen. So if that does not pass you, what will happen to unrepresented political parties that don't contest in this election?
Okay, are you capturing that question? I mean, I'm not sure what you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't here pre-election before, so you know. So maybe, yeah, it's context. Thank you very much.
The voting parties didn't have to do all this.
No. I'll go and educate myself. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. They are cool. So okay, cool. Okay, sure.
Good morning. Good morning. What we see in the independent candidates, for me, through my political experience, it's just a waste of time. If we can find a way to scrap the act or remove them, it would be much better. Because according to my experience with the politician, most of the independent candidates, they are beaten from their political parties. They don't have clear intentions of that will bring the society. They are all bitter. You can see by the coalitions that have been made in the municipalities, it's all being colluded with independent candidates. Because I want to overthrow this political party. The only thing I will do, I will go to floor and bribe with a certain amount of money. Then a million or so. Yeah, that was it. So the independent candidates, there's no need for them. Okay? There is no need for them. If you can relook how we can get rid of them, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Considering it as an issue that the Constitutional Court made its voice heard on, it's incumbent upon, I think, existing political parties and people who are in the legislature to think if you find amendments to the Constitution, then so be it. But at the moment, it's unconstitutional to not have them representing one or the other. It's just up to us now how we shift that. If you see any, yes, sir.
Yes, the name is Andy Sandomera from the same table, by the way. Just so I don't make proud of us and say, it's just we saw that the independent candidates thing, like it's really a waste of us, it's a waste of space, because now we cannot run away from the fact that politics is a game of numbers. They are being nominated or elected to pass the bill to make the law. Now, if you are like individual and the political parties have many candidates, obviously, when it comes to passing the bill, you always find the senses using the majority to pass the bill. But now, if you are in the individual, so it's a waste of space. So my question is with the colors now of the emblems of political parties, because if you have like many political parties, you'll end up having similar colors or even the symbol. We saw with the IEC and IEC and the next IEC and ANC, we saw those political representing more votes. And we strongly believe those votes were of the ANC because people couldn't see the ANC proper and end up voting for the another political party.
Yeah.
And my last one, I want to also ask with the IEC guys, because there's this thing, there's the balance paper will reach you where you are, but they say the cerebral ones. What's in the role of the IEC now in terms of ensuring that the same cerebral reach the people, because they are expecting them at the voting districts, maybe at the Emakaya and there, but only for the status of the one, but in so the IEC, I thought maybe Unae or Unae to ensure what is cerebral.
All right, thank you very much. You are free and clear in the way we allow people to ask questions. You know, some things you differ on, but fundamentally, because we're in a democratic space, you need to enable that we are in a position. But hey, don't raise your hand and you. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, I see you. Possiamo, la sala sociale dell'altro vamos in mena. PPF, youth that, yeah, keeping our community safe. Thank you very much. Speaking as an individual, actually, only as a school. Speaking as an individual. Go for it.
The mayor comes at the contact in the ocean, which is the mayor, I see the roads.
Good luck. Okay, all right. Congratulations.
My third question is around basically comments. Yes, I see already knows it. Before I'm election, that's I'm a candidate. Now I may already won selection. Was looking at the fact that why is it the remuneration of the mandates? You have to
but here, the difference in amounts, we got that from the Act says the quantum of a deposit paid by independent must be different from the paid by the party. The participants win multiple seats, but an independent can only have win a seat, irrespective of the circumstances. Two, we don't make money out of the party registration scheme. Nor do we make money out of the deposits that parties open. The deposit that party pays, the party gets a single seat, and independent gets a seat, they get their deposit funded. Where they don't get a seat, the money is forfeited, not to us, it's forfeited, I wish it would be, but it's forfeited to national treasure. Why must you still believe in democracy as a form of arranging social affairs in the country when after successive elections are not president the same? So there's two elements to it. We are responsible for the procedural element of democracy, to make sure that there are voting seats, to make sure that there are no queues, to make sure that there's equitable distribution of voting stations and access to. Those who contest in part have a responsibility for the substantive elements of election. Or for one of the better ways, they have a responsibility for the transactional value of a vote. To say, once I've voted based on the manifesto, has that manifesto manifested in the area in which I am. And I think that's a difficult question. I've sought to draw rings around you, but I see I've not succeeded. The independent candidates, whether they can continue or not, I've indicated that 4 months, within 4 months of the passing of the act, the minister by law must set up a electoral advisory committee. So all those things are best likely to say you feel to use this thing which is not legal, and you can offer suggestions to what is the thing. But as I see, nothing safe of a constitutional amendment can reverse the decision on independence. Or ask it differently, why is the scheme in local government permissible and the scheme in national and provincial is not permissible? You recall when we, during the days of the floor process, a provision in the Constitution was removed by a constitutional amendment and it was placed in the electoral act. If that is implemented, I don't think we attempt would have succeeded because the constitutional court would have been faced with the decision to say, can the Constitution accept that? And their judgments up to now have always been that we must read the Constitution not to confirm a contradiction, but we need to find harmony. So the only way to change or reverse the participation of independence, as I see it, through the electoral reform plan. On our part, we are planning on the basis of an electoral system that excludes independence is not constitutionally permissible. Party identifiers and confusion predictors. That is in fact done research. It was not necessary, but we did it nonetheless to confirm that similar party logos or colors lead to confusion about certain things. It is difficult to explain to people that if you see that logo on that screen, it's big, it's in ideal lighting circumstances, you don't confuse. But if you must find that on a ballot reduced, in not in less than ideal lighting circumstances, there is a possibility that will not be. And also, if you are in Africa, of the 600 parties, the majority of them I can vouch. They have African in their name. They have a combination of green, gold, and in their colors, the majority of them. So increasingly, after we've done the research and after the change of the AIC and ANC, increasingly rejecting parties because the identifiers may lead to confusion among them. So that we are dealing with, but there will be legacies where in the past there were parties that were starting similar identifiers. Ms. Thomas, when the regulation be finalized, we are just awaiting for the Concord to be on two issues because they have implications on a number of things. One, the regulation on the nomination of candidates. Remember I said the 15% signatures is one of the issues that is challenged. And if the court determines otherwise, we might have to change that regulation to remove 15% in that regulation. The regulations will publish the public comments, they will be finalized after the 2020. The two court cases are not applications to reverse the independence. So an electoral scheme management will have independence. So the court cases are not, no one is against the participation of independence next year, and that is the position of the only two opinion that independence will participate. Mr. After independent candidates who cease to hold office. In terms of the law as before government, parties submitted is like in your municipalities, the PR component, a party owns that list for itself. So if Marcelo who was number 2 on the list ceases to hold office or resigns or dies, he is replaced by the person next on the list, while the party can change itself. That is a similar thing that is happening in legislature. That component is retained for political parties. However, for independence, because an independent is not elected from this, when you seek to hold office, you can't replace them from this. So what you're going to do there in terms of the law says, you remove the votes for that independent and you do a recalculation. And whoever next needs the code gets declared elected into the position. They can be an independent, they could be a candidate from the party list. He also said, why is the position not reserved to be filled by another independent? It sounds fair. However, it offends at least two democratic principles. It offends the principle of equality in the vote and the will of the people, because to go and award a seat to another independent, you may have to overlook parties that have met the last vote and only to award an independent candidate. Man, I do not get your name. Let's try to answer this. I don't want to sound defensive. The issue about people who applied for special votes and were not visited. There's a number of challenges to apply for special and the area in which you must record improvement in administration. However, there are also difficulties introduced by people who purport to assist applicants. Parties go around, especially in introduce. They collect applications from those persons. They bring them to the IEC. Most often than not, just before 5 o'clock on the last minute, they make boxes. They don't even include in the application form the contact details of the voter or the person at that trade facility, so that when the application is not approved, the person having sitting there with an expectation that someone from the IC will come on Monday to get the special. When on our part, no, we should not be sending people there because we've not approved that special thing for quite a number of years. In local government election, you can't do the special thing outside the work in which that person is looking. So the message we're saying to parties is, by all means, assist people to apply for special things, but include that direct contact or the contact of the person in that household, so that when we reject that application, we get notification. Or in more rural places, so that when we get more things, then at least contact somebody to get direction to the homestead. But at cheap rate, let's get the details so that the question what we have applied. Section 24A. It is no longer available at the voting station, and Section 24A said it was a narrow exception to the law. The law says a person registers and votes at the voting station in an area in which they are ordinarily present. So Section 24A recognizes that there are people who unavoidably find themselves outside of their voting station on voting day. They could go into any voting station and apply to vote at that station. If they were within their province, they'll get all their ballots, national. If they were outside of their province, the national party. Over time, it has become abused to be a mechanism to effect for voting stations at which they are chosen, and no longer serves its purpose. So in 2021, Parliament amended the act and said it must be by quick notification to avoid activating that certain people are able to vote more times than they entitled. So when you apply, you make it simple to do by way of ID number and indicate the voting station at which you will vote. Unfortunately, it will not cover everyone, because if you only know the day before the election that you are the people in the front. But if you apply for a special vote and end up not traveling, we will not refuse you to vote at your voting station. The same way that if you apply for a special vote and you go away on special voting days, actually you don't find you can still come to a voting station. The rate of special vote is increasing exponentially. And if we could help, if we want to limit it, to benefit those people who, but for a special reason, would not be able to participate. If people go the same on firm, I can't come to the police station. You go there on Monday and Tuesday, no. They will just wait for them, they still go to the mall. I suppose you can go to the mall. The same level of executive could be exerted on voting day to go to the voting center. And for those who have the public, please don't just look at the voter roll and take everyone 65 and above and presume that they want to do that. Because we go to homes to find the person of us is they say, no, I want to vote, I do not want a special vote, I will come to a voting station and voting so that I'm part of activities in my community on that thing. So let's not, let's end it. Voter education is dealt with it. From electronic voting is unavoidable. We must, but we must avoid the temptation of so many jurisdictions that went for electronic voting without properly understanding the reason why they are moving it. Not far from here, in Botswana, they went for electronic voting process. Namibia, they went to electronic voting. What meetings they do the legal voting they do not need to be constitutional. We've done a lot of research on electronic voting, held international conferences, great discussions in Parliament. In fact, in 2019, we had proposed a draft amendment to include controlled, controlled pilots of electronics in Parliament was not in that. But the Industry Administration Portfolio Committee seems to have an appetite for this study. But our move towards electronic voting must be mindful, must be informed by the country investment. What is the country voting? And sometimes people make wrong assumptions. Electronic voting will not, in and of itself, increase voter turnout. Electronic voting will not, in and of itself, reduce the cost of running elections. So, if we check that, we know why we introduce. For us, we introduce electronic voting to further safeguard the integrity of electoral outcomes. That will be one of those things. But that technology must not worsen inequalities in society. We must transcend them. So certain communities will disproportionate equitable opportunity to vote while others still voting. My brother, I didn't forget your questions. Answer the one that but also you introduce yourself properly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mateo. I think the idea of electronic voting, at least from my own perspective, before what we take us over in terms of the employment part of it, it's the point of having a machine, but with some sort of paper receipt is one way we can start looking at it. Some jurisdictions do have that, so that at least my problem as an observer of elections is when people contest something that they also happening and they're like, no, we need to do a recount. And then you're there for 24 hours and it could have been done in 6 hours. And so perhaps the introduction of an electronic form of voting will already have something targeted to say, the machine says this, the sheet says this as well. What are you disagreeing with? And perhaps that's something that helps, at least from an administrative side and from the observer side. We don't get stipend, so we are happy for 48 hours. Yes,
Thank you, Chairperson and our DCO. Just on the electronic voting one, I've been over years involved with SRC election. And I said, this is where it needs to start. You guys at IT forces will develop a program and get it working at that level. Hopefully, the more senior politicians will accept it then. By the time you progress through the political sphere as well. The sound appropriate, yes. We use a hybrid system that's confirmed by the OTCO. If you take integrity, for example, don't go to any other Ishawi or Amzempulu or Bulabesho area with deep rural. Integrity has areas where there's no connectivity in terms of cell phone coverage. So that's why we use it. And bearing in mind, during registration weekends, only 3 staff per voting station. But during elections, so they are, and that number that is increased by, whether it's 10 or 20 per voting station, the balance of the staff will take from all unemployed people from those meetings where they are registered. So the application system will open, but where they're trying even to go to offices, they'll give you opportunities to access the app at the office and work on that as well. And I think even in the Tsukini, the vast Sitakala centers and libraries, they have, and I think most municipalities have free internet services at the libraries as well. So people must make use of that, but we are not oblivious of the fact that some do not have access and therefore we use a hybrid system. And if you look at our voter registration platforms as well, the reason we went online on the online voter registration since the 2021 elections, in this month alone in KZN, at 14,485 people registering online. A mixture of new registrations and where voters change their details and update the details, either moving into the province or moving between towns, moving between voting stations or areas within the municipality. So there is a big opportunity because registration is at voting stations where we open on the 18th and 19th of November, all state voting stations countrywide for the voter registration weekend. And then you can, if you don't want to use it online, you can apply online, or you can go to our local offices if you want to escape any field and things like that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you very much to both of the speakers tonight. You can give a round of applause. And we allowed that process to take the amount of time that it did because it's important that we get an understanding of the fundamentals, and we appreciate that you are patient with us as far as that's concerned. I do note our colleagues from the Democratic Alliance have joined us, and they are sticklers for time because they came here at 11 and they will leave at 12. Please help us to make sure that we get as much as we can from them whilst they're here. I'm also going to use the time coming period quickly to go fetch some tea and come back to check on our other speakers to see where they are, if they are still honoring their agreement to be here, and then of course. So I'd like you to go and grab something to eat, some quick tea outside, but come back with your stuff. Don't linger. Don't have chats, please. And a reminder that it is tea. Lunch is coming later. So be mindful of others' other colleagues in the room. I'd like to invite our colleagues from the IEC and speakers and colleagues from CANRAD for a quick picture at the front before they gather into the I'm sure also they are like hunger strike. These days, as a prayer for the moment that the court cases go the right way. So, colleagues in the IEC, Dr. Mane, Dr. Canuela, Mr. Roger, if you don't mind. Dr. Yunki. Wait, this is my place. Yeah, she has I can see them. I can see it's a tough one. Luckily, I'm not in the picture, so when I do come, so the simple life. I guess if you don't mind sitting, some of you sitting, yeah. Mr. Rogers, Chi, or if you can sit. No, Mr. Rogers. And then ask for our employees and friends. Yeah. Now. Yeah, please.
Okay, we'll put this in back up.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'll come see you. The campaign is started there, so. So, Tabitha. Okay, thank you very much.
I don't know. That's fine. I just want to confirm from you. Sorry, I couldn't. I think to make we'll be in touch. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed you. No, that's I think no. But I also followed presentation a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, because you did a lot of the same. So there's one question going back on your application request to Treasury on the budget. How's that looking? Okay. And I mean, I'm open. I'm wondering about the second registration. Second registration, we can also find it for it. Okay. The only way we must ask, we can probably be waiting for the president. Now again, excuse me being pushy. If the election date is the earliest date, the 16th, 17th Feb was the last time you could you're expecting a later. You're not going to bring that registration weekend earlier. The registration weekend will be given by day to day. The point is, I'm obviously following. It didn't make sense to say you're waiting, because why not go ahead with 16, 17? So the implication is that you're going to know this year that the election date is going to be later than the first date in May. We started the presentation, the president has not come back here. On our part, we are planning on the if you are no, obviously you planned it. Yeah. But if you go, I think and the president says, I clearly if you want that registration, we can later you can make it. because it's close to the other one anyway. You obviously want it as close as possible to when they just proclaimed. Sorry, I'm just curious because there's things happening that we don't hear about.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just curious about that. I'll tell you why I was tracking it. There's rumors that the second weekend and rumors have come to 26 guys. Obviously, I know Christians are, and I know you're going to like that group. You know what I'm saying?
I'll be happiness with us.
Budget is cut. But that's right. You know what I'm saying? But in the middle of September, you weren't sure.
We are waiting.
Yeah, no. As I say, forgive me, I know I'm pushy, but these are details that affect people, you know. And so, yeah, we listen to the news. Hold on a second, you know. But thank you.
Okay, colleagues, we're resuming with the rest of the program. As indicated, there was a working group. So colleagues decided to bring outside. We will do that in very valuable information. As mentioned in the introductory remarks for the setting, some of the implications of the changes to the electoral law, as we find it, have had implications on the way in which certain spaces are governed by political parties in particular. And of course, we've had a bit of a discussion around the impacts on what are now called independent candidates. And so when we have these discussions, it's important to understand what are some of the potential ways forward that we as citizens can start to think through and engage with. As it relates to, thank you very much. As it relates to political parties, we've seen since 2016 more so, but primarily in 2021, a number of municipalities across the country that have had to be constituted by coalition governments. And analysts have described the situation as inevitable, in that the ways in which our constitution envisioned the multi-party representation of political parties in the space meant that to some extent or in some instances, we will have to be governed by consensus, and that consensus means fielding different political options, and then they have to decide how it is that they create that relationship of governing in that space. Some of the key constituencies of municipalities, people can mention that prior to 2016, for instance, there were already a number of existing municipalities that were hung and were operating on coalition governments. It was only in 2016 onwards when we saw these starting impact metropolitan municipalities municipalities like the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality, the Tshwane municipality, the Johannesburg Western municipality. And of course, given the size of these municipalities, and as well as the size of the budget, as you can imagine, there was a lot of political contestation to leadership. And of course, what this then meant is that there was always going to be friction between political parties in terms of determining who it is that leads that space. Since 2021, if you remember Johannesburg, if you think about the case of Johannesburg, for instance, I think they've had to change layers more than 6 times. And so it's about what are the considerations for political parties that they have to undertake themselves before they go into coalitions. And given that some analysts, as they say, this is an inevitability of our electoral system, this is an inevitability of our multi-party representative system, and the constitution that we live under. What are the considerations that they have taken on board? What are some of the learnings that they've anticipated and started to implement themselves? All of this, of course, culminated to some extent in what was called the multi-party charter of South Africa, that occurred, I think, in August. And so when we saw a number of opposition political parties start to chart a course forward for how it is they see coalitions from 2024 going forward. So for us, we are lucky in this space, knowing that the campaign season has started for this specific political party. They launched first their provincial premiere a week or so ago, 2 weeks back. And now 2 weeks back, actually. And now, yesterday, they were launching their political poster or the election poster, or election voter registration poster in what they said was a very strategic area of SAB. And as he will tell you where that area specifically was. And he was asking some interesting questions, whether the rates from that specific voting that were in front of were paid out. So we're going to hear from the Democratic Alliance, leader of the Democratic Alliance, the Council Rogers, in terms of their perspective around what the sort of inevitabilities have come to be a part of now. In some instances, we've heard from the DA in the past when they were speaking about the mushrooming of the smaller political parties, and they're saying, guys, these small political parties are taking away from your ability to be truly represented. So what does it mean? Is it a change of course when they started to institute a multi-party charter? Specifically because some of the political parties that are part of that charter, I didn't know them prior to the actual charter itself. And so I know that they might not represent constituencies here in KZN, for instance, which we might be forgiven for not knowing them. But to what extent are they reaffirming the space for these smaller or newer political parties to form part of that space of the multi-party charter? Mr. Rogers, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. You're welcome to take the stage. And you have about 10 minutes if you could choose. But as it looks, our colleague is not here, so you can take both of them. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invite to be here. I also want to make it quite clear.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
talk a little bit about what I was asked to talk about is coalition governments. And as we all know, and as we heard earlier, that as we enter into this new space of coalition governments, it's fraught with challenges. And you just heard the challenges that Tshwane has faced, that Johannesburg has faced, and that Nelson Mandela Bay has faced. And it was interesting to listen to some of the questions and comments during the previous discussion. And the reality is, if you look at coalition governments, the instability created in coalition governments is invariably created where the balance of power is reliant on an individual party or an individual person representing the party. And we've got history of that. Now, you think way back to when Cape Town became a DA government. Helen Zille was still the mayor at the time, and it was a very, very difficult process to manage because you had all of these smaller factionalized parties who created instability. And the more you bring the balance of power to 2 or 3 parties, the better the coalition government will perform. So in KwaZulu-Natal, we've taken a slightly different approach, and that's what I want to unpack with you today. After the last municipal election, there were certain hung municipalities in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the IFP needed our support in those particular municipalities to govern. And we started bilateral discussions with the IFP. We made it very, very clear that we will support the IFP, but we are not there for any positions of power. And you will recall in the 5 municipalities I'm referring to, we didn't want to take a position of speaker, mayor, or deputy mayor. All we wanted was to take up the position of the municipal accounts committee, impact, as we call it. And those are the positions we still hold. Because we believe, even if there is a cooperation amongst 2 parties, you still need to be a watchdog on each other. So our message was quite clear that we remain opposition to the IFP in those particular municipalities. Now, we all know that service delivery is at an all-time low in our province. So we then entered into further discussions with the IFP. Then we put together a service delivery pact for the particular municipalities where they needed our support. And that service delivery pact is not a complex document. It's quite a simple document. And the key focus areas in that pact were the following: good governance, working towards financial stability, water provision, waste management, sewage management, electricity provision, infrastructure management, public and recreational spaces, roads and transport, safety and security, job creation and investment, sustainable housing, health, environmental protection, and devolution of power. Those are the key 15 deliverables in our pact, which we feel needs to be addressed across our province. So the pact was discussed at great length. Both parties played a crucial role in putting the pact together. And we believe that as we look towards 2024 and the possibility of a new government in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we need to, I always tell media houses when they ask me, and I want to make it clear, as I said earlier, at the moment we're not in a coalition with the IFP. We're in cooperation with the IFP. So this is almost like a dating phase. When you want to date someone, you've got to clean each other out, you know? That's figuratively speaking, not literally speaking. And this has given us an opportunity to understand each other in the dynamics of local government and service delivery. Now, local government is fraught with challenges, and the solutions are not going to be overnight. But we would notice, for example, one of the municipalities that we work extremely well with the IFP is the city of Mshatuzi, which is certainly one of the better, if not one of the second top performing city in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, where we can see there's investment, there's job creation, service delivery is happening. So as our relationship evolves with the IFP, we then agreed that one of the councillors there, Christo Werter, He was the chairperson of the Infrastructure Committee. He's now been appointed as the deputy mayor in that city because we believe it's working. Now, what this pact allows us to do is look at best practices. Where things work, we can now engage with the IFP and we can try and collectively roll out those best practices. So in this service level agreement, we've got three key areas that we focus on. We've created a DA and IFP technical task team, which we believe is the expertise that collectively we need to be able to go into these municipalities, go into these towns, and come up with solutions and a way forward to address the challenges of service delivery. Secondly, we've created a KZN oversight group, which again is a joint oversight group between the IFP and the DA. But in this particular case, it takes the level higher, where our federal and national leadership play a role in looking at service delivery in these municipalities and ensuring that success is achieved. And then the most important thing is, and the third point in the pact, in the service delivery pact, is a conflict resolution mechanism. Because that's important. When you find these failures that we've seen in the other major cities that I've raised with you, conflict always leads to the collapse of these coalition governments, and ultimately, the parties don't suffer. It's the residents, those people that need the services. Those are the people that suffer. So it's important that we have mechanisms, which we've got in this pact, to ensure. And like any relationship, any dating, there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be time when you climb in your car, slam the door, and drive away, and swear you'll never go back to that person. So that's why it's so important that we've got conflict resolution mechanisms. But friends, I want to tell you the most important thing is political will. If there's no political will to address the challenges that we face, we're never going to find the solution. And we believe between ourselves and the IFP, there's enough political will to be able to prove to people that we can cooperate, we can improve service delivery. So ultimately, depending on the result of the election in 2024, if the balance of power does change, by then we would have had an understanding of how the IFP works, they would understand how we work, and we could then form a formal coalition. So that the coalition can only happen after an election. It doesn't happen prior to an election. Because let's be honest, both the IFP and the DA need to maintain their political identity. We're not going to be washed in the same washing machine. We maintain our political identity, the IFP maintains its political identity, and we'll contest this election as separate parties. But what this pact does, it allows us to discuss where there are by-elections, and where there are by-elections where there could be a change of power in a ward by-election, that we sit down as parties and we analyze the results. And instead of contesting against each other in those particular by-elections, we decide in whose interest is best, which party will gain the most. And this is something that, again, gives us hope that you can come up with a collaboration of this nature, contest by-elections. And I don't need to tell you, the last 2 years will tell you what the results of the by-elections are and what's actually happening in the dynamics of the 2024 election that's coming up. So, friends, I'm not going to belabor the point. I think I've given you in a broad nutshell what our objective is. But what we also want to do as the DA, and again, I said I'm not going to campaign, but recently there were some results that were released from an independent poll. And it gives us a clear indication of what lies ahead for 2024. But in order for us to avoid the situation where individuals or small political parties hold the balance of power, it's critical that between ourselves and the IFP, we try and level the positions of power, level the percentages, so that there can be no one dominating group over another. And I believe that is the way forward. That is the way that we believe we can effectively govern and collectively govern the province of KwaZulu-Natal post the 2024 election. So, MC, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm disappointed that my friends were here, but it is what it is. It was interesting to see that this last weekend we had a dialogue on local government, a summit on local government, where again both the DA and the IFP shared a platform. Tommy and Julie was there, and quite clearly we are serious about what's lying ahead of us, and we want to bring about that change so that we can fix what is really, really broken.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you just pass around the applause? I did see some of our colleagues from the IFP at this other gathering, so I don't know if there was miscommunication internally among them about where they are to be deployed to. But yeah, thank you very much for honoring our I'd like to invite Gomez, if he doesn't mind, just for a quick analysis and response to both the morning's presentation, but also briefly to what Mr. Rogers has also mentioned. And perhaps Mr. Rogers will give you about 5 minutes afterwards for final remarks and maybe some questions from the floor. Perhaps for me, one of the things would be to ask what is different with this specific arrangement changes. And we know that DA and I worked together 20 years ago when Mr. Tony Leon was still leading the DA. What one of the breakdown, what learning are you taking from that initial relationship to where we are now? And how does this relationship specifically, it seems quite unique to KZN, fit into the broader multi-party coalition or charter rather that's been drawn up as a starting point? If there are any other questions, I'll allow you to raise your hand. Should we take questions first, or do you? Either way. Okay, since you're a man of who's always ready, let's start with you, and then we'll take questions thereafter. So that probably people can ask you questions as well, along with Francois. So I decided for Uganda.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and thank you very much to my colleagues from KIC and then Mr. Rogers. In responding to the discussions, with the first one, the IC discussion from Mr. Shiburi, I think that we exhausted most of the discussion points, but I'll raise a point or two in that regard. And then with the input from Mr. Rogers, I've noted down a few points, and then I'll just do some reflections as a way of responding. And then, of course, challenging him on one or two things to expand a little bit, and then we take it from there. One of the things that appeals to me, as Mr. Rogers was presenting here, is that it is an admission, which is a fair admission, that coalitions are not without problems. We can think of coalitions, pre-election coalitions, post-election coalitions. The reality is that there will always have problems. And most of the time, these problems arise from the fact that most of these coalitions are not thoroughly thought through. In some instances, you go to an election hoping to win. In fact, all political parties hope to win. even the party that is joining the election for the first time, the thinking is that whether the votes or the post will make you win, and then if you don't win, only then you think of coalitions. For me, that's a bad start. The ideal coalition that would be sustainable is the one that is carefully thought through. I normally say it must be, the plan must be cogently thought through and meticulously applied. If you think about it, just because you've lost an election, then we look around, okay, who's the closest? Okay, let me take this one. Definitely, there's a recipe for disaster. So if you think about a possibility of having a coalition for starting about it now, and then identify those political parties that are most likely to be aligned to what we believe in. And the point Mr. Richard is making is a critical one, that there is a distinction between the pre-election coalition and the post-election coalition. One of the things I like also was the difference between cooperation and coalition. That one was very clear, and I am appreciative of the facts. But maybe I would like to just tease them a little bit. The arrangement that is happening between the IFP and the DA in KwaZulu-Natal, and it's clear that this is just cooperation, a cooperation arrangement. Now, I would like him to respond at a later stage as to how he defines what is happening then with this multi-party charter for South Africa. So if the IFP forms part of that collective, will it be in the form of cooperation or will it be in the form of a coalition? And then what are the dynamics involved in that one? Another very critical point is the one you made about the size of the coalition. If you have too many coalition partners, chances are that coalition is not going to survive. I mean, this point has been made several times with Nelson Mandela. I have lost count of how many mayors we have there. We have had there. We invited the mayor's office. The mayor didn't pitch, but at least there were people from the mayoral committee. At least in one of our events, which karaoke also attended. So one of the things I've noticed that if you have a bigger coalition, chances are that coalition is not going to survive, simply because the people are doing the coalition under dubious circumstances and their ill intentions. Some will join the coalition not because they want to make it thrive, but because they want to make sure that it doesn't survive. Because politicians in the main are dishonest. I'm being blunt. In the main, politicians are dishonest. Starting from within their own political parties. You say, comrade, and the thing is, this one is comrade. The comrade is an eighth part. When you are vying for a position, then the eighth part will be played. Oh, I know this from student politics. Some of you who are students will know this. When with SRC elections, I remember there was a case when I was a student at UWC, when we were electing in SRC. This gentleman, and then he stood on the podium, oh, the place is new, comrade. And then he delivered his speech. During the Q&A, one guy said, okay, comrade, can you please convince us why we should vote for you? Because it's not what the comrade presented well. Then he said, you remember that there was a student who came here from the wanting to join CANRAD, which is now part of CPUT, Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And you were here at UWC, and you pretended to be assisting the student. But then you said, no, my sister, yeah, it's too late now to travel. Cape Town is not a safe place. And CANRAD is very far. And those of you who know CANRAD and UWC, they're just separated by a road, literal by a road. But the student, because the student was new, he didn't know the area, and then said, yeah, definitely not going to work. So I can offer you accommodation for tonight, and then tomorrow I will show you how to get it printed. Out of desperation, the student had no choice, but then agreed. And then the guy slept with this innocent kid. The following day, accompanied her just to the end of the fence, and then said, there is the fence. And then how to elect such a person to an SRC member? And this comrade, the so-called comrade, they knew all along this guy was just a big mess. But then they gave him all the time, the podium, nomination processes, everything is going smooth until the 11th hour. no comrade, don't qualify for the post. That's how politicians work. Then, of course, this metamorphosis, and then go to the provincial government, the national government, then we start playing this game. So that is the point I'm trying to make. That's why I'm saying in the main, I'm not saying all politicians cannot be trusted. Trust your politicians, elect them to office, they'll promise they're going to build you 5,000 houses. At the end of the 5 years, they're not created in one. Then they'll pretend to be starting one, they'll make a slap and say, if you give us time, we're going to get more. But I'm not convincing you at all. And Mr. Rogers just reminded me of that. So those smaller parishes then are most likely to survive than the bigger ones. That point is well taken in Mr. Rogers. I really appreciate that. And then the other point made is about the political will to do the right thing. If you don't have the political will, it's just like someone who takes a gun and then say, I'm going hunting. And then once you are there, you just shoot randomly and hope that you will hit a target. Then there's something wrong with the software. Because you are waiting for bullets. Rather, look for one target. Even if you see 10 deers, target one, and then hit that one. After that, look for another one. But then what normally happens is that politicians might just go to a coalition, let's just see how it works. And that is why it doesn't survive. So, Mr. Rogers, thank you for reminding us that in most instances, these coalitions are driven by particular agendas, not just one agenda. And for as long as those agendas are different, then it means the end result is not going to be the same. One other thing I like is this issue of having joint committees. This is in the case of relations between the DA and the IFP. If these joint committees, we are then making sure that as much as we're in a coalition or in a cooperation arrangement, but then you are still mindful of the fact that we are dealing with politicians. So can't trust them 100%. So just make sure that there is this space of disappointment, that you trusted this person, and then say, as a collective, we agree that you will be the leader of this coalition. Then once the process starts, then you be like, no, man, this is not what I signed up for. These things are correct. So if you are well aware, then of course you can take those precautionary measures. Most importantly is the issue of voters, the issue of residents, and the issue of the electorate. These are the people who are our employers. But unfortunately, either because of lack of political education amongst politicians, once we elect someone into a position, they think they are God of some sort. I made a statement in another event and I offended a lot of people, but I didn't apologize because I still stand by them. I said some of these so-called honorable members, they were our students. You teach them, they can barely make it. Some get 49%, and then just close one eye and say, okay, let me reread this assignment, make a find one. And then the person gets 50%, right? And then they make it through. And then all of a sudden, this person becomes a mayor. Yo, they are in trouble. They are driving a small car, and then they come with these rulers, then to give way. If you don't give way, so what happens with the Paul Mashakile's convoy. That is what happens. This person is a nobody, and then becomes somebody because of the position he or she holds. The moment the position is gone, then the person is gone forever because there was no backup plan. So I normally say then voters or the electorate or residents are the people we should value as politicians. Because you are as good as opposition. The moment you lose opposition, you lose respect. They don't respect you because they fear you, which is another problem. People must respect you, but not to fear you. The moment you pose yourself as this big figure, then you're in trouble. Yeah, there is a lot I could say, but I'm not delivering a speech. I've started responding to what Mr. Rogers was saying. Thank you very much for that, sir. On the earlier discussion, we're just chatting there because, as you noticed, our desk did not have a spokesperson, and we did it deliberately. And we were talking about saying that if this were to an election, the election would not be free, fair, and credible, because we're the speaker in our table. And we had the privilege of asking him pointed questions which we didn't have access to. So basically, it was for selected few. And then we said, no, we're not going to comment because that would be unfair. But there are a couple of discussion points that we entertained there. One is this issue of political education, which we've been talking about. Unfortunately enough, defended the IEC in many podiums that we cannot expect the IEC to perform miracles when, on the other hand, we are slicing the budget. It doesn't make sense. There is no logic there. We expect that the IEC must do the work for political parties. Then, of course, political parties must pay the IEC. It's simple as that. If you don't teach your constituency, don't expect the IEC to do the job for you. And don't expect us as commentators to do the job for you. If we do that, then we must expect an invoice. I'm just explaining myself here. But I should be honest here, we had an issue where national government took a decision that the money that is given to the IEC will be slashed. And this happened at the time when it became clear that our voters in the main are not properly educated. And that is politically educated. You can have your academic education, it's fine, but we need political education for you to take informed decisions. Now, the IEC cannot do that. Then we're looking at this issue now, saying that those who are saying you have the 200 versus 200, they don't understand what the difference is. Just like they don't understand the difference between a mayor and an executive mayor. And no one is going to do that because our politicians either don't know themselves or they do know, but they don't have a chance to go and educate their electorates. During the constituency period, normally that is when politicians are supposed to go to their constituencies. But then the problem is, my constituency is at Mwavuma, where I was born and bred. They elect me, once I'm elected, I move to Mhlanga. That is stupidity in capital letters. Because I was elected by my community, I should be there where they are, so that when they complain about the road infrastructure, I should be there to talk about that. Coincidentally, 2 weeks back, I was in my village in Mwavuma, and I saw that something is being done to build the roads. But the road was in a terrible state, to the extent that I had to ask Ayandam Tong, and not Ayandam Tong, Ayandam Soe, I had to go to Mwavuma. And it drove all the way from Metewili, went straight to Mwavuma to see what I was talking about. Because they closed the school. And then they said they are going to provide a bus. And I said, is this bus going to fly? And then I took people in education and said in transport and said, no, guys, you're not serious. We have never been, they don't know what I'm talking about. If I were a politician, I would have not said that. But because I'm not a politician, I'm not after any position, I had all the reasons to do that. I'm happy that they've done something about it. So the IEC, therefore, I'm not just defending the IEC because I'm in their payroll. I'm not in their payroll, but I'm defending the IEC as a matter of principle. And politicians, please assist us in this regard. Let us educate our constituencies. The issues that Mr. Shiburi is talking about are issues that you should be discussing in your branches, in your constituency offices, and educate your volunteers so that you are on the same page. Otherwise, you have a problem what people are going to say, as an independent candidate, I got enough votes which amount to 4 states. So I'm taking this 1 state, so I own this 3 states, then give me the right to donate my state to whoever I prefer. Because they don't understand the law, they don't understand how this thing has been worked out, then of course that will be a problem. And then our politicians will grab that and then say they'll take the IEC to court, only to find that they are blaming the wrong person. They should be blaming government because that's what legislation is made. So thank you very much for educating us on that one. Mr. Tupor, I really appreciate it. Before I sit down, there is another issue which we raised that we're looking at different electoral systems. And he made it clear that the one that we're using, the PR system, proportional representation system, is one of many systems, but it's not a perfect system. And there is no system that is perfect. In July, I was in Australia, and when I was discussing with people in Australia, and they said, here in Australia, I can be in party A, but then I can vote for a president who's in party B. That is because they vote directly. If you vote for the president, they vote directly. Someone made a comment which I fully agree with. There are people who like a political party, maybe political party X, but they don't like the person who is a candidate from political party X. Now they are in trouble they are pressed between the rock and the hard place. On the one hand, you still have to make sure your party wins, isn't it? But on the other hand, you have this terrible candidate. Now, what do? You have to decide, and that's okay, fine. Let me vote for this person because he or she comes from my party. Of course, this person is a disaster from the start, and then we expect miracles. But the point I'm making is, if we were to go for direct election, whereby we elect the president directly, some would say that would be better because at least if I'm a presidential candidate, you vote for me because you believe in me, not because you believe in my political party. Which is why I made a comment the other time when we were told that a particular president of a particular political party, whose name I've forgotten, was more popular than the political party. Then we said, how possible is that? Because this person has been made by the political party. The reason we know this person is because of the political party. Then why all of a sudden we say an individual is more important than the political party? That's a recipe for disaster. The other person was elevated into the position of power, then the rest is here to be said. I won't say who the person is, I won't say who the party is. I forgot to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you very much for this. I think it is important. Before we give an opportunity for hands, I'll take two hands in the interest of time. Hopefully you haven't spoken already. Are there any questions directed to Pastor? Okay. So it's more like the fact that we have a family. You are getting confused. So you have to those who have. For the yeah.
Yes, it's good afternoon. It's not on a good morning. So mine is not questions as well. They're just it's just comments on the coalition government. They don't work. The way I think that why they don't work is because they are not planned and they are not public engagement is not done properly. And most of the leaders, they take decisions without consulting people who are voting. That's one of the main problems that the coalition government don't work. So in order for coalition government to work, proper consultation with the communities which are voters must be done. And that's the other way that can make them work properly. And there must be written agreements on how these coalitions should work, not verbal agreements on policies. It's what caused them to collapse. And the service delivery is again to reach people through these verbal agreements because there's no written agreements on how these should work. And so for this marriage of convenience called the coalition government must be properly done and people must be consulted. I think that's the way it can work. Because as the Chinese say, if we open the door and flies open, it's quite.
Thank you. There's too many flies. All right. Thank you very much. I'm getting up to you. You wanna come up here or you wanna?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jane. I think my comments are really around the fact that when we spoke earlier at this table, one of the biggest challenges, both in terms of coalitions and independent candidates, was the fact that as the electorate, we have such a low confidence based on our experience of how this has worked for us in terms of what we want as citizens. So both coalitions and both individual candidates, at least at local government level, have not translated in a better life for us. And it's interesting to listen to the presentation by Mr. Rogers, and one would hope that
that starts to build on what is causing us to feel so dishonest and disappointed in smaller parties or opposition parties. And it comes back to what the gentleman just said now, that as soon as people are elected into a position, the gap between the electorate, the people who got you there, and yourself just grows over 5 years. And you're doing the very same thing that everybody else is doing, coming back to us after 5 years, to come and ask us to put our trust in you again. But you totally removed yourself from the electorate. And it's stuff like, for me, it's not voter education, it's active citizen education. What can you be doing with us in the 5 years to ensure accountability, to ensure service delivery? And yeah, that's my comment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Back to you. Can you give a round of applause first? And back to you, Mr. Rogers, for your final inputs, and then we'll ask Dr. Pariyuki thereafter to offer us some final words for the gathering.
Thanks very much for the comments and questions. I think, Jenny, let me just start off by saying, and perhaps this answers some of the questions and thoughts in the room and voters' perception in general. In my opinion, voters have lost faith in politicians. And that's because of the state of our provinces, our municipalities, and the country. But that is something that as individual politicians and as political parties, you need to take notice. You can't behave like ostriches, stick our head in the sand, and think the storm will go away. It won't go. It'll get worse. And we see it getting worse by all the circular protests that we have all over the state. So, you know, it's also time that politicians, political parties took stock and did some introspection. But it seems that some of the politicians feel they own the country instead of you owning it and then doing the work for you, which is, it's a sad indictment, but it's something we need to recognize. Jenny, obviously, you know, this whole new cooperation that we're doing in KZN with the service delivery pact, it's new territory for us. This is something we're exploring. But I think it comes back to what a lot of people have said. Is it in decline? I think you also said that, you know, it needs to be planned, and I think the Prof also said it. This is what we're doing. We're planning with the IFP as to see whether we can build our relationship and improve service delivery, and ultimately looking at 2024. So we're certainly not going into 2024 if we wake up and suddenly the governing parties no longer has a 50% majority and suddenly say, well, let's look at the situation now. That's the wrong way. The way we're doing it, we believe, is the right way. And of course, we've got a written agreement. You know, this is not just a discussion point. So whenever we hit a hurdle, we can always refer back to that agreement. And the IFP can hold us accountable, and we can hold the IFP accountable. Because I think that's critical as well. That if you're going to go into a relationship, and eventually if there is a marriage out of this, post-2024, then, you know, it needs to become a two-way street. And we need to hold each other accountable. I think that's a critical part of any coalition government, is accountability within any coalition. And of course, we are consulting with communities wherever we go. I'm telling communities, our other senior politicians are telling communities what it is that we're trying to achieve with the current cooperation agreement. The question about how the IFP pact and our current situation impacts on a national level and on the national charter. As a politician, I'm also going to be very careful. I have to stay in my lane. So one would hope that, and I see the prof is having a good chuckle. One would hope that this relationship we're building now could only strengthen anything at a national level rather than weaken it. Prof, you asked me a question about, or you commented about coalition history. And there was a comment about we were in coalition with the IP many years ago. I think Robert Burrows was still an NPL then. He chaired he was the NEC of education. This is where the reality comes in. It wasn't a great coalition, but you learn from your mistakes. And if you're going to have a stable coalition, then you've got to ensure that the balance of power is as equal as possible. When one party, the coalition, dominates another, instability is bound to happen. So that's why, from my party's perspective, it's critical that we close the gap between ourselves and any partner that we might go into business with post-2024, and that brings about stability. And then again, as I said, holding each other to account. You know, Prof, you're right. The reason coalitions have failed is because of the balance of power, minority parties in coalitions. Now, if you think back to the municipal election, and many of you will recall in eThekwini, there was talks about the DA forming the majority in eThekwini, and that we would ask the governing party in eThekwini. Nicole Graham was still the leader of the caucus at that stage. And we said, as leadership in the province, no ways, it's never going to happen. And the reason we said that was because we would have been letting ourselves into an absolute disaster with the smallest structures making up that coalition. We would have taken one issue, increasing salaries, or whatever it might have been, for one or two parties to destabilize that coalition, and it would have reflected badly on us. If you go into coalition with these smaller minorities, you are setting yourself up for failure. History speaks for itself. That's why we've got to be very careful when it comes to that. Yeah, Prof, you spoke about political will, and again, it's a sad indictment on politics in our country. It's something that as individuals and as parties, we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves. I think I've covered all the questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers, for honoring the agreement to participate. As you know, colleagues in the room, the DDP extends invitation to a broad spectrum of political parties who are represented in the space. And so it's incumbent upon that particular political party to be a part of the space or not. So every time we have this convening, we make the same sort of assertion that it becomes up to you as a voter, up to you as someone who serves what to make of those or not to make. So yeah, it's really up to you. But we make space available for all political parties, and so we appreciate when people of leadership are able to come to us and come to the spaces that we're convening as part of that. Thank you very much, Prof, for your insights as well again, and of course, thank you to Mr. Mate Shiburo for that's the thank you very much. I'll now ask Mr. Watela Yupi, who is the Executive Director of the Democracy Development Program, a partner to CANRAD, the Center for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy, to give us a vote of thanks before we do the things that are very necessary in such gatherings. I know you are waiting for that. Call it between you and Dan. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian. I would like us to give a round of applause to Brian for doing it. Thank you. also to acknowledge dear friends from CANRAD and colleagues who have done great work represented by this is Courtney and Rodney and Paul and DPT. I would like us to give them a round of applause. They are doing this work and making sure that we have had this event executed as one of the many that we're going to be doing together collaboratively going forward. So I'm very thankful also for the DPT team to put this together behind the scenes to make it work. Somebody told me the other day, we always enjoy coming to your DPT events, but we never know the amount of time that goes behind what we see. And it's true, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to make it work the way you see and experience. And of course, I would like to ask you to give yourself a round of applause for being here. We will not be used if you are not in the room and having read all that was made to be here today. And so, after we had the discussion today, our work is started. First as DPP, but also collectively as society. Our work of mobilizing citizens to participate in the upcoming elections is really powerful. As we heard from the statistics and the conversation we had in the room, we need to get everybody involved and engaged. And we're not saying which party to vote for. That's a decision that we need to make, but we need to be engaged and we need to be part of the citizen that says, time for change must come, and I want to be part of it, and I want to contribute meaningfully. PPP remains very committed to this process of mobilizing society and citizens towards this work, and expecting we're going to do more this time in here when we engage with different partners to take this work even outside of this room, which is really one of the things that we want. We're still trying to do better, but we're committed to that process. Of course, it's all budget dependent and all that, but it's really, really important for us to get these kinds of conversations to communities where I think they will be very, very much appreciated for engaging with similar content. I also want to thank the IEC, both here in President, presented by Mr. Godfrey and Dr. Shongwane, for coming here and supporting us all the way. And of course, Mr. Masiko, Brian has said, we really honor this relationship. It means a lot to us that we know that we can count on you anytime to come and support us in this process, because as we see, information is power. If people don't know enough, they don't know what to do. But when they know enough, they are able to do better. And so we thank you for that relationship. Thank you also, Mr. Francis, for coming on behalf of the DPP team. And CANRAD, we really thank you so much for making time to come. And we Brian has just put in the target. The other party also given the opportunity, but they didn't come. But as we know, we try as much as possible to ensure that we encourage every political party to come and share their views. It is an open platform, and we believe they need to tell us what they think about this speech that we're practicing. And of course, without forgetting our media partners who are in this room today, who have come to cover this event, we really thank you for making time to be here in Nanda FM, and Tuga FM, and I'm told there is also Linda. Yeah, I've never heard of them, but they're here. And of course, colleagues on the DFT department. So thank you so much, colleagues, for being here. And last but not least, we're going to be hosting tomorrow a closed event for traditional leaders in this room tomorrow. I think, is it here or in the?
Which one? Sorry, second. It's here. It's here. It's in Elangin. Yeah, it's in Elangin.
So if you know of a stakeholder, a critical one, that we need to be talking to and we need to invite, send an invitation to tomorrow, please do speak to our teams right there, Brian and Stabiso. It's a conversation, it's a conference for traditional leaders, and it's we were supposed to have it a week ago, but we have to honor the person of the generation so at this point. So convening tomorrow, if you know a critical stakeholder who need to be there, please do speak to our team and we will send the invitation to the next hour. Thank you so much. And I hand it over to Brian. It will be something else we need to. Thank you.
A round of applause for Paul.
Right, so we are going to break for lunch shortly. I wanted to say, in terms of the work that we are going to continue to do up until next year, part of the sort of political education we speak about is also access to political party networks. So to some extent, I don't know that citizens engage as actively as they ought to with political party manifesto, and so that's part of the convenings that will be engaged with next year. If political parties choose not to be in the room when we are having that package for them, it might not be pretty. So hopefully they come through just because of that. No, I'm joking. We offer an opportunity and a platform to say these are the constituencies that we have in the greater KZN sort of province. If you don't have access to these constituencies, or if you want to increase the visibility in those spaces, the political parties encourage. We have community stakeholders that exist in areas such as Marion Ridge, Marion Hill, Dallenbrook, Bumbulu, that's only in the greater area specifically, but we do know and work in other areas such as other parts of the province and other municipalities in the province. At the moment, I see my colleague Umban is organizing a community dialogue in the Waterways municipality. Will be happening in the next 2 weeks. So we are in the different spaces. We do work with the civic stakeholders and partners as well. So in terms of those constituencies, you are very much welcome to engage with them as well. The ability to capacitate young people to participate more in the election is also a significant part of our work. Suraksha and Amanda are handing out lunch coupons. Given the number of events that are happening in the hotel, it's important that you have that coupon before you try and access lunch. So we do ask that you make sure that you have that before you leave. If it's someone in the bathroom right now and they don't get one and you run out, we apologize that they found into the meet. I'm joking. That's only thing I'm all cool though. Please travel safe and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a great